This one's Ronald. The 60 seconds that I've been given are not enough to tell you all about what Randy has done to rebuild and improve the Museum of the Holocaust, or to recapture the Klimt paintings for Maria Altman and her family. So I will instead tell you of another important success he has had. Like most parents, Randy's mother and I immediately recognized their firstborn's genius. Even though he at first could only pronounce his R's as W's, we sent him off to nursery school, confident that his teachers would at once identify his talent. So when he returned home the first day of school, we asked him, "How was school?" His answer, "Fine." "Did the teachers say anything special to you?" "No." We were somewhat taken aback. This scenario repeated itself the second day. "How was school?" "Fine." "Anything special happen?" "No." And so on throughout the first week. Finally, on the sixth day, we noticed he was wearing some sort of badge and asked, "How was school?" "Fine." "Anything special happen?" "Yes, I was given this badge." And now, with great expectations, "Why were you given the badge?" "I was the best Wester in the class." From then on, in our family, Randy was known as the best Wester. Now, you can laugh at this, and you may think that being the best Wester is rather inconsequential. But consider this: what is more important to a nursery school teacher than quiet during rest time? So, although Randy is well known for his recovery of the Klimt paintings, triumphing over both the United States and Austrian governments in the Supreme Court, and known to you for his leadership in redeveloping the Museum of the Holocaust, whether it best be for Best Holocaust Rememberer, Best Lawyer, or Best Wester, Randy, you deserve this award. We love and admire you.
There was a joke circulating years ago which went as follows: how does one know that Jesus was Jewish? And the answer was, first of all, he was 33 years old and still living at home. Second, he went into his father's business. And third, and most important, his mother thought he was God. Well, like Mary, I am a Jewish mother, though a bit more modest and realistic about my son Randy's talents. But I would like to point out a few of his unusual talents demonstrated at an early age. In the film Woman of Gold, Helen Mirren chides Randy and says, "Money? Is that what you think this is all about?" Suggesting that Randy was oblivious to the import of the Holocaust. But the truth is that Randy has always been keenly aware of his family's past. When, for example, as a boy of 10, nurtured at my mother's knee, he was so interested in her family lore, her recounting the terrors of the Holocaust and death of closest family members in the camps, so much so that when he received an assignment at school to make a family tree, he took up an entire long hallway of our house with a chart of many, many branches, all leading down to him, his name written in large letters at the center, culminating in "Me the Great," as we and his siblings would tease him about. This sense of destiny and joining himself tirelessly to countless generations of the past, as well as his love and fascination for family and constant probing of where we all, sitting on the shoulders of those who came before us, might be going, his love of connectivity brought him directly to why he is being honored today. I would like to think that I had something to do with it, to prate about how Ron and I imbued Randy with the love of family and the knowledge of who our parents were, recounting my parents' connections to their closest friends, Maria and Fritz Altman. But as Ryan Reynolds, acting as Randy, yells at me on the phone in Women in Gold, "It's not a good time, Mom, not a good time." And so I will end by saying that Randy has always given us great joy and pride, culminating in today's honor and presentation. Thank you. Where's Ronald? Oh.
Thank you. Wonderful. Thank you. Okay. Can't see anybody. Well, wow, that's going to be a hard one to follow. Sam said we need to get out of here by 9, and it's after 9, so everything here is gravy, and I'm going to have to give the shorter version of this talk. But I first wanted to thank very much for that introduction, my mom and dad. They'll be celebrating their 50th anniversary later this month, and it's about time because in 10 months I turn 50, so they better be having that. I can't see them over there, but I also want to give a great big thank you to my wife Pam and my children Dora, Nathan, and Joey. Can you stand up and have everybody applaud for you? There we go. We've had quite a week, and it's great to have everybody you love here. And thank you, everybody, for coming. I want to thank, of course, Frank and Shelley Litvak, who have chaired this event tonight, and also the amazing Sean Levy, who's been by far the best MC that we've ever had. Sorry to everybody who did it before. And of course, thank you to Richard and Randy Jones, and also Stacy Jenks Jasper, my co-honorees. You've been terrific. And of course, a thank you to Sam Huttman and the entire staff of the LA Museum of the Holocaust. Let's give them all a big round of applause. I'm sorry, I have to sort of combine two speeches, because ordinarily I give the president's speech, which thanks everybody involved in the museum, but now I also have to give the honoree speech. So first, the president's duty, and that is to thank everybody who has helped put this museum together this year, to our museum board. And if they're here, I'd like them to stand up, and I'm going to read out their names in series. Miriam Bell, Paula Bennett, Andrea Caton, Claire Firestone, Renee Firestone, Bob Geminder, Michelle Gold, Jonah Goldrich, Melinda Goldrich, Blanca Hadar, Hella Jacobs-Lepore, Marcia Levinson, Robert Liebesman, Peter Mandel, Gregory McKay, Paulette Nessim, Paul Nussbaum, Joan Sanders, Frank Schiller, Stephen Taylor, Dr. Stephen Teitelbaum, Yaniv Tepper, David Weiner, and our honorary directors Ozzie Gorin, Masha Lowen, Harvey Martz, and Gary Schiller. And our advisory board, Miriam Bell, Lydia Budgor, Edith Franke, Marie Kaufman, Dana Schwartz. Thank you all so much. Thank you so much. We have really the best board in town, and I'm on a lot of them. I'm going to go straight to the end of this and say that I was very fortunate that my grandmother's dear friend Maria Altman called me in 1998 to help her figure out what to do about Austria's new art restitution law. I knew Maria, of course, but as I said in the film, I didn't know her story. And when she came to me first and met with me, she wanted to tell me not so much about the Klimt paintings, but really what had happened to her and Fritz. Maria was just 22 years old and newly married in 1938 when the Nazis annexed Austria in the famous Anschluss. And almost immediately, the Nazis came and arrested Fritz and sent him to Dachau. Now, Dachau was perhaps not as terrible then as it became by the end of the war, but it was still a very dangerous place. My grandmother, Gertrude Seisel, in her oral history, talks about two young poet friends who had been arrested at that time and sent to Dachau. 2 days later, one of the boys' parents received an urn with ashes and no explanation of what had happened. Only when the other friend was released a few months later did they learn that the two boys had been forced to sit on train tracks and look into the lights of a train. When one of them blinked or looked away, the Gestapo shot him for disobedience. I was reading Fritz's story just last night and see that he describes a similar scene in his own memoirs. So this was something that had been done quite a bit. And this is what it was like for Fritz in Dachau, until thanks to his brother Bernard and also to Maria, again, 22 years old, Fritz was finally released. Now, Fritz and Maria then managed to escape. If you saw the film, they concocted a story about going to a doctor's appointment and escaped, managed to fly to Cologne in the north of Germany. They were smuggled across the border into Holland by a priest who was later executed after being arrested for helping people escape. Maria and Fritz managed to evade the Dutch police. They were, after all, illegal aliens at that point, and they made their way to safety. Now, you won't see most of this in the movie Woman in Gold, because it is, like every escape story, like the story of my own grandparents and all of the other survivors, I think there are 50 of them here tonight, an entire movie of its own. There's one very moving scene, though, if you've seen the film, and it ends the movie, and that scene was actually invented for dramatic effect. It's when Maria leaves her parents. In fact, Maria's father died in July of 1938 while Fritz was still in Dachau before they escaped. So I had always looked on that scene as a little bit of fiction, as some of the movie is. But then one evening at a party, a woman came up to me and said how moved she had been by the film. And especially the scene where Maria leaves her parents, she said, because that's what her own mother had been forced to do. It really wasn't until then that I realized, of course, that my own grandfather, Eric Zeisel, had done the same thing. You just heard his Rosetta song that was composed in 1938, but not performed because of the Anschluss. He abandoned his parents and escaped with my grandmother and never saw them again. Before he fled on Kristallnacht, he must have gone through a similar scene that Maria had in that film, that type of farewell to his parents. And understanding that is when I really felt the great power that this film had, the ability to represent the story of so many of our families in the story of just a few. Telling this story was the most important thing for Maria during the 8 years that we battled for the paintings. After all, no one ever thought we could win. And I remember saying to Maria when we were at the Supreme Court, and she was actually on the cover of USA Today, I said to her, "You realize, win or lose, your story will be told in a Supreme Court opinion and will be a part of history." I have to tell you, she was as pleased then as when we finally won the paintings 2 years later. As I prepare to step down and hand over the reins of this museum to a new executive board next year, Beth Keaton, Andrea Caton, Paulette Nessum, and Paul Nussbaum, that'll be the new executives, I'd like to offer one final reflection based on my own trajectory, which started, as you can hear from my parents, at a very early age. What our executive director, Samara Huttman, understands so well, almost instinctively, is how to engage young people with our history. Whether it's on a school tour with a survivor speaker, a bar or bat mitzvah ceremony, a film program, a piano recital, an art exhibit, challah making, whatever we do to engage our young people and get them interested in the history of the Holocaust will have repercussions far beyond that one experience. Thank you all for coming tonight and for supporting the very important work that we do at our museum. Thank you.